Hey everybody, it's Jenny from GrowthMode Marketing. You're listening to Demand Gen Fix, the podcast where our team of growth moders and our guests discuss the ins and outs of demand generation and why we believe it's the key to long-term sustainable growth, especially in the HR tech industry. Hi listeners, welcome back to the podcast. Today, Deanna and I are going to be talking about accelerating your word of mouth to build greater brand awareness and trust in our market. When you think of the word brand, often you just maybe think of logos, colors, imagery, and being a creative director, of course, those are the kinds of things that I like to think about too. But the reality is that brand encompasses so much more than that. It's not just your visuals. It's actually how a company shows up in the market. It is about how people view and think about your company, really. And a big lever to growth can be word of mouth. In fact, that's a really powerful tool that you can use. So we're going to dig in to look at how you can accelerate this to drive more market demand by creating raving fans. And today we are thrilled to welcome a guest, our friend and fellow marketer, Rhea Allen. Rhea is a marketing coach, culture and brand facilitator, adjunct college professor at Boise State University, and CEO of Pepper Shack Media. Welcome to the show, Rhea.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Let's just jump right in. You know, your background, Ray, is in brand as well. So I think this will be a great conversation. So brand awareness matters. You know, people aren't going to buy from you if they don't know you exist. So I think this is going to be a great conversation because I know, Ray, your agency and your team and your expertise are in the branding side as well. And in fact, the topic we're talking about today is one that you brought to the table in a conversation that you and I were having. So I'm really excited to kind of dig into it because I think the way people buy today, whether you're an HR technology company, you've got other B2B products, or even in the B2C space, the reality is people aren't picking up the phone to talk to sales reps the way they did in the past. They're doing their research, they're asking others, and they're putting more trust into unbiased opinions versus reaching out to companies directly and having those conversations. And this fits into, you know, your demand generation engine because it's really about building raving fans who talk about your brand. And how do you build out that digital footprint to become your best sales rep? So with that, let's jump into how do you accelerate word of mouth by getting other people to talk about your brand. And Ray, I'll hand it over to you because when we chatted, you had 5 things that you talked about that I think are worth jumping into.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I so appreciate the opportunity to get to talk about this because it is absolutely, first of all, it doesn't cost a whole lot to do what I'm about to tell you. And second of all, I think that these 5 R's that I'm going to share with you are really instrumental in being able to continue to accelerate that word of mouth advertising that we're talking about. So here they are. And for those of you only listening to the audio, I'll try to describe what I'm doing here because I have my hand up. So we're going to go with ratings and rankings, reviews, recommendations, referrals, and then rewards. And I've got my thumbs up for rewards, right? We want to reward those who give us ratings, rankings, reviews, recommendations, and referrals. So let's just dig in and start talking about each of these 5 R's and how you can, like you said, get people to talk about your brand by doing that. So ratings and rankings, pretty self-explanatory there. If you get people to give you a 5-star, or they can rate your company on a scale of 1 to 10, or any kind of way that you can get those ratings and rankings to allow people, and then they share that with others so then they see that. And that can help you get your customers to then see what other potential customers might see when they've got those ratings and rankings. You know, Deanna, I would love to I want you to share maybe some ideas that you have that your customers can do to get ratings and rankings.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. So I don't know if you would count this as ratings and rankings. I guess my mind goes to it. Industry award programs. So for example, we work with ADP, actually a few different groups within the company to help them actually go out and apply for awards so that they can win those best of ratings and rankings to be able to basically use it in their marketing material. And so the type of awards that we're working with them to apply for, you might be looking at the Stevies, the Titan Awards, Business Excellence Awards, big awards for business. The list goes on. And what we do when we work with them is we go in and we kind of research what are the options out there for awards that are applicable to their HR technology, depending on which group that we're working with, whether there's new innovations with that technology, whether it's customer service awards, things that demonstrate to the market that they are bringing something that is worth taking note of. And what they do, and it's ADP, they're a very well-known brand. They have a very, very high win rate with these awards because they've got great technology that they work with. They take that information, they promote it on their website. They get those links, to your point, Ray, that it brings in like that SEO value because there's links out there coming back to their site. They put it in like their Spark newsletter. So they really take advantage of, okay, we've won these awards. Now what do we do with it? And it really does help build credibility in the market for them. Because it's not them saying, we're really good at this. It's somebody else is saying, we selected this product by ADP because we think that it's really good compared to the others that were in that category that we evaluated against.
Oh, that's great. So the second one is reviews. And with reviews, really, it's talking about ways that people can share about your business. And those reviews are so important, like podcast reviews, right? For those of you listening right now, you could give us a review, right? But it says a couple things, right? It says that the person's going to take the time to give a review and have a thoughtful message that's going to go out there in the world. And it's going to be in their circle of influence that will see those reviews. And then also helps with, again, SEO and helping to build that brand. And it's your customers are talking about you. You're not having to toot your own horn because your customers are doing it for you. And so, yeah, there's lots of different places to do the Google reviews or LinkedIn reviews or Facebook reviews, Yelp, Amazon reviews, Better Business Bureau reviews, Google My Business, podcast reviews, like I said. And so there's just lots of different places to get and give reviews. And it's reciprocal, right? If you give them, then other people might give them back to you and it comes back in abundance. So yeah, I think it's definitely something that you want to have in your strategy to be able to help accelerate word of mouth and be able to continue to build that. Are there places that for your clients that you encourage them to get reviews?
Yeah, actually, we work with clients to help them build a review program because I think unsolicited reviews, if they're positive, absolutely can sway an HR technology buyer to choose your solution. And there are a lot of review sites out there. And I know, Ray, you mentioned some of them. More specifically, when you're looking at the software space, there are common sites that we would recommend to our clients, and the list is quite extensive, but just to throw a few out there, there's Trustpilot, Capterra, G2, TrustRadius, SaaS Genius, and on and on. And I think one of the things to know, like if you're building up your software company, the reviews don't just magically come in until you're pretty well established and, have quite a market presence, I think. So the little known secret is that there is an element of pay to play on some of these where you can be more prominent. It helps you garner more reviews. And you've got to go in and you've got to build your profile first for them to even have the option to go and review and stuff. And I think it's important also to note that you need to monitor review sites because if there are negative comments or untrue reviews coming in, you can respond to them to try to manage your reputation as well.
So yeah, recommendations. I mean, these are all very similar, but it's a little bit different for each one of them. We know on, say, LinkedIn, you can get a recommendation from someone, or you can, ask people to give you a recommendation. And it's really a nice way to write out what people are recommending. Or on Facebook, for example, if people are looking for recommendations and then you get tagged by somebody, one of your clients or, your customers, then that really shows the world that your customer really wants to recommend you and tell other people about it. Again, accelerating that word of mouth advertising that your your people are, being able to talk and tell and share all about you and your business. So the more recommendations you can get, the more you'll be able to boost your your brand and your experience with other people. And some examples, we mentioned LinkedIn. You can do online search suggestions, like look and see how many people would recommend a company. You can use Net Promoter Score, and of course, Facebook recommendations we talked about. But yeah, capitalizing on those recommendations and asking people for it. I think that's the one thing that people kind of sometimes miss is just asking for it, right?
Yep, that was exactly what I was just going to say. Like, is it okay to just get out there and ask for recommendations? Because, people might not be top of mind to go out and do that. So, is it okay to just like throw out a blanket message to all your friends and family and say, hey, please recommend me?
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, all of these things, asking for the ratings, asking for the Google reviews, asking for the LinkedIn recommendations, it is something that it doesn't always come top of mind. So if you can systemize the process of asking for these things, you're going to get a lot more return on your investment in the time that it takes to ask them. I even sometimes go so far as to give people just kind of a blanket sort of, here's something you could use to copy and paste. Obviously, you can modify it yourself. But if you kind of do the legwork for them and provide them the exact link for them to go give you a recommendation, then it's a lot easier and it actually happens a lot more often if you give people just a little bit of what you can do. And now you can use AI to generate some blanket text that they can just take and modify and make their own. So it's really kind of a nice little process that you can do that you can automate it now and continue to get out there. I always say, measure what you treasure, dump what you don't, automate what you hate, and delegate to elevate. So there you go.
Nice. That's a really good idea and a really good point. I just had a conversation with somebody last week about that. They had been asked to give a LinkedIn review or recommendation, and they were just stuck. And they really wanted to do it. It was, a company that they loved working with and everything, but they just didn't know what to say because they're just not, they're not a writer. And so I think that's a really, really good point and a really good idea to give people the tools to go ahead and give that recommendation.
I think you bring up a good point, Ray, in that you should ask, because I think a lot of companies, everybody wants recommendations. Recommendations are the highest form of flattery, right? Like that really means a lot if your customer is willing to give a recommendation to a colleague or a family member or friend who comes to them and says, hey, what HR technology are you using for your DEI initiatives, for example? But it doesn't always happen organically, or they don't think about it. Like, what's the worst that can happen if you ask somebody? They could say no. Okay, well, now but it puts the seed in their head that, hey, the next time someone asks about this, I really like working with this company. I should recommend them to someone else because I do believe that they can provide value for them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Even if they don't actually go out and write it and post it, it's still in their head.
Next one is a big one. It's referrals. Again, asking for them too, right? Just talking about asking for referrals. But really with referrals, it is something that it needs to kind of continuously be rewarded. And that's the fifth one is reward. We'll talk about that in a minute. But it's just nice when you get those types of referrals because it really does accelerate word of mouth. We know that in some cases it takes 11 to 13 times to see somebody's brand or hear about it before you actually acknowledge that you've actually heard it or seen it, even though you've been exposed to it. And when you get referrals, the speed of trust and the amount of times that it takes to get a brand in front of somebody is a lot less than 11 to 13 times, because now I am transferring my trust in the referral that I give and also receive. And when I receive a referral, I'm more likely to utilize that company or that brand because of the referral that's coming from a trusted friend or trusted influencer, a trusted person that's going to tell me, yes, I absolutely would refer these people because XYZ, they're wonderful. And on the flip side though, if somebody tells me, oh, you don't want to do business with them, they're terrible, they're awful, right? it can work both ways. So you always got to be doing the right thing in business to make sure that you get those referrals and people talking about you, because it's just wonderful when it happens. And, the more referrals you get from industry partners, from, other people that are in your circle of influence, maybe some like-minded types of, not necessarily competition, but other people who have a similar audience as you, that you can now cross promote to each other's audience because they're both, very similar. Then you can help build your referral system, referral network. And those are some really great ways to help continue to sprawl and fuel those referrals and get those people on board to consistently give you that, and then to fuel the referral program as well, and making sure that you continue to ask.
I'm curious, what would you say is the main difference between a recommendation and a referral?
So I think a recommendation is there's just all these terminologies that, like on Facebook, you can, look for recommendations. And then on LinkedIn, they call it recommendation, right? To give somebody a recommendation. Where I think that maybe the difference here is that referrals are where it's, personal referrals, right? Recommendations can be out for the whole wide world to see. Those referrals are maybe more one-on-one, where you are introducing somebody via email. Or what I love to do, and when I'm making referrals, I actually like to get the two people that I want to refer to each other in the same room with me, because then I can introduce them to each other and have little nuggets about each one of them and make it a memorable experience when that happens. Because then I'm connecting them, and that speed of trust again happens instantaneously. And I think it's more about being able to have that personal relationship that you can then give to somebody else to then now be a part of that relationship together. So it really is more of that one-on-one relationship building tool that you can use to create those referrals and fuel those referrals and create the partnerships that you have in referrals. And, in networking groups, right? They have all these groups where people come and they, may have breakfast together, and they go around the room, say who they are, and then, give thank yous to the people who gave them referrals, right? And it's a more one-on-one. Yeah, that's kind of, there's very similarities on all of these, but just thinking about how you can fuel those specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the clarity there. And I guess I totally agree. It's more of I'm introducing you to somebody else kind of a thing when it's in a referral. So
are we ready for the rewards?
Yeah.
The fun parts? Okay, the thumbs up for the rewards. So rewards, everyone loves to be rewarded. And there's simple things that you can do in order to reward those who reward you with ratings, rankings, referrals, and recommendations. And the idea here is to recognize and appreciate those who do that for you on a consistent, ongoing basis, because they're going to want to keep doing it, right? If you can reward them, then why wouldn't they want to keep doing it even more? And so things like being able to do some shout outs, right? On your podcast, saying thank yous to people. And I do Facebook Lives and I do shout outs. I do shout outs, news you can use, and events not to miss. And people watch them because they want to know if I'm shouting out their name, right? If they want to know if I'm recognizing them for something that they did for us, and vice versa, right? And reciprocating that. So there's lots of things. You'd be entered for a chance to win something really cool because you gave those referrals, or, give us a review and be entered for a chance to win.
Well, and I think, the examples you're giving are all B2C. Our audience here is B2B, take a step back and think about it. Okay, what can we learn from the B2C space to be able to apply like rewards to get people to do the behavior we want from a B2B standpoint? And one of the things that I thought about was years ago, I worked at Ceridian, which is a company in the HR technology space. And we would go to trade shows and they wanted people to come to the booth for obvious reasons. They're trying to collect leads. And one of the things that they did was you could enter in for a chance to win the opportunity at like the Sherm conference and the HR technology conference to get into the Ceridian Money Cube. And it was just what it sounds like. One of those cubes, where I don't know if they still do it. This was years ago.
Grabbing the money.
You're grabbing the money.
The dollars around.
And it was comical how all of these HR leaders and payroll leaders would come at like the 3 times every day that they were running the money cube to see if their name was drawn so they could get in there and try to grab the big bucks. And, some people would walk out of it and they'd have like several $100s. Some people would walk out and they had $23, depending on which bills you grabbed and whether the strategy worked. But I think that's a perfect example from a B2B perspective of we put some kind of reward system in place, in essence, to drive people to our booth. And so I think as, our listeners think about how do I apply rewards to what we're doing? Yeah, you may not be selling transactional stuff like coffees and food boxes, but there are other ways that you can incorporate rewards into it, like getting people to take surveys for you and leaving reviews and getting them to come to your booth and different things like that for sure.
The ideas of enter for a chance to win, those kinds of things can still be applied to a B2B situation too. I mean, it depends on who's taking the survey and all that kind of stuff, but it could be a really good incentive.
And people are motivated not just by money, but lots of other ways to reward them, and it kind of even gamifying it where, they get a token or they get like a badge or, something if they've got a profile or whatever, because they've done the actions that you wanted them to do and they followed through with it. And then you reward them with some sort of recognition in some way. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if even like offering a free service in your business or something like that, something, a free consultation or something like that. I mean, even that can be a reward, especially in the B2B space, I feel like. This has been a really fun conversation. I love your 5 R's. I love the thumbs up. That's great. There's a lot to be said about getting your word, getting your name out there, getting your brand out there, and having people talking about you. As we discussed in the very beginning of our conversation, I mean, a lot of people take the recommendations and the reviews and everything way more seriously than a digital ad or, a billboard or anything like that they see, because they know that it's authentic and they know it's coming from somebody that they know and trust. So that's huge. And these are all really good ideas to get that conversation flowing. I think it's a great, powerful lever to building brand awareness and trust especially in the crowded HR market, HR tech market, because as we've talked about before, there's just hundreds and hundreds of people companies that you're competing against. So these are really good tactics to break through the noise.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, that's a wrap for today. Be sure to check out our friend Rhea Allen's podcast, the Marketing Expedition podcast, for more insights around how to build your brand. And tune in next time to the Demand Gen Fix for more thoughts and insights on how to rev up your demand generation engine to achieve high growth.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here, Ray.
Thanks for joining us on the Demand Gen Fix, a podcast for HR tech marketers, brought to you by GrowthMode Marketing. We sure hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe for more perspectives on demand generation and B2B marketing strategies. Plus, give us a like. Tell your friends. We'll see you next time.